There's something in the air again as Celtic prepare to return to Celtic Park, and it's not just another matchday feeling. After weeks without consistent home fixtures, the anticipation has built into something that feels bigger than 90 minutes of football. Supporters are sensing a shift, a renewed belief creeping back into the atmosphere following a steady result away from home, and the looming reality that the title race is far from decided. With only a handful of games remaining, every moment now carries weight, and stepping back into paradise feels like more than routine. It feels like a chance to reignite something that perhaps flickered in recent weeks, but never truly went out. The return of key supporter groups into the stadium only adds to that growing intensity, restoring a layer of energy that has been missing. There's a recognition that, at this stage of the season, unity matters more than ever. The players will walk onto that pitch knowing exactly what is at stake, and the crowd has a role to play that goes far beyond simply watching. It becomes about lifting, driving, and pushing a team that still has everything to fight for. Even after a campaign filled with frustration in certain areas, the opportunity remains firmly alive, and that's something no one inside Celtic Park will be taking lightly when the whistle blows. At the same time, there's a parallel conversation unfolding among the support, one that doesn't disappear just because the team is in the middle of a title chase. Questions about leadership, decisions made behind the scenes, and the general direction of the club have not simply faded away. Instead, they've been temporarily set aside in terms of visible protest, replaced by a more measured approach that recognizes the importance of backing the team during these crucial fixtures. It's a balancing act, and one that many supporters seem to understand, even if opinions differ on the best way to express dissatisfaction. One of the more talked about ideas emerging from within the fanbase is the concept of delaying season ticket renewals. It's not about refusing to support the club or turning backs on the team, but rather about timing and the message that timing can send. In a football world where financial certainty is key to planning and stability, even a short delay in renewals has the potential to create a ripple effect. It introduces a level of uncertainty that clubs are not particularly comfortable with, especially one that relies heavily on its core support for financial strength. That alone makes it a form of protest that doesn't interfere with what happens on the pitch, yet still carries weight behind the scenes. What makes this approach interesting is that it sits somewhere between passive and active protest. Supporters aren't giving anything up permanently, nor are they removing themselves from the experience next season. Instead, they are choosing to act collectively in a way that highlights dissatisfaction without directly harming the team's immediate prospects. It's a calculated move, one that depends heavily on unity and participation to have any real impact. If enough supporters buy into the idea, it becomes noticeable, not just internally within the club, but externally as well, shaping the narrative around what is happening at Celtic right now. Of course, not everyone sees it the same way. There are those who feel that if the end result is the same, the club will ultimately receive the money regardless, making the delay pointless. Others simply believe that the club has been run well enough and doesn't warrant this kind of response. Then there are supporters who may disagree with the groups putting these ideas forward, choosing to distance themselves entirely from anything associated with organized fan movements. That divide in opinion is part of what makes this situation so complex. Because while there is a shared love for the club, there isn't always a shared vision for how to protect or improve it. Still, what cannot be ignored is that collective action, even in small forms, has shown signs of making an impact in the past. Clubs notice patterns, they track behavior, and they respond when something feels out of the ordinary. A sudden hesitation in renewals, especially on a large scale, doesn't go unnoticed. It raises questions, prompts discussions, and can create pressure in places where supporters rarely have direct influence. In that sense, the timing of financial commitment becomes a subtle but powerful tool, one of the few available to a fan base that ultimately wants to be heard without disrupting the team's push for success. As all of this unfolds, there's also a growing call for clearer communication and deeper explanation behind these ideas. Supporters aren't just looking to be told what to do. They want to understand why it matters and how it could realistically lead to change. There's a sense that if more detailed insight is shared, if the reasoning is broken down and presented in a way that connects with the wider fan base, then more people might be willing to engage. Because at the heart of it all, beyond the debates and disagreements, is a shared desire to see Celtic thrive both on and off the pitch, and to ensure that the future of the club reflects the passion and commitment of those who stand behind it every single week. While that discussion continues to gather momentum among the support, another development has quietly entered the spotlight, offering a completely different route towards influence within the club. This initiative, centered around season ticket holders, brings with it the promise of financial backing tied directly to fan participation. The concept is simple on the surface, but carries significant implications. For every large block of supporters who commit to renewing, substantial investment would be directed into a structure designed to give those same supporters a stronger voice. It's a model that attempts to bridge the gap between passion and power, turning loyalty into something that could potentially shape the club's future direction. There's an interesting contrast between this and the earlier idea of delaying renewals. One focuses on creating pressure through uncertainty, while the other leans into commitment as a means of building influence. Both approaches, in their own ways, are rooted in the same underlying feeling that supporters want to be more than just spectators in the long-term decisions of the club. The difference lies in execution. One sends a message by holding back, the other by stepping forward. It leaves many fans in a position where they're trying to figure out which path aligns more closely with what they believe will actually make a difference. Naturally, with any proposal of this scale, questions start to emerge almost immediately. Supporters want clarity on how such a structure would operate, who would ultimately be responsible for decision-making, and how transparent the entire process would be. There's also the matter of inclusion, particularly for those who follow Celtic from afar and don't hold season tickets, but still feel deeply connected to the club. Any movement that aims to represent the fan base has to grapple with that reality, because Celtic's support stretches far beyond the physical boundaries of the stadium. At the same time, the timing of all this adds another layer of intrigue. With the season approaching its decisive phase, attention inevitably shifts back towards the pitch. The title race remains alive, and there's no escaping the fact that performances over the next few matches will define how this campaign is remembered. That sense of urgency brings everything into sharper focus, from team selection to fitness concerns, as even the smallest detail can influence the outcome. There's a growing awareness that while discussions about the future are important, the present cannot be allowed to slip. In the background, there are also whispers surrounding player availability, particularly in key defensive areas. Injuries at this stage of the season can be disruptive, not just because of the individuals involved, but because of the knock-on effect it has on the overall balance of the team. When options begin to thin out, it forces adjustments that can alter the rhythm and consistency that managers work so hard to establish. It's the kind of challenge that often separates teams who simply compete from those who find a way to push through and get results when it matters most. There's also been plenty of noise around the broader narrative of the league itself, with debates emerging about fixtures, perceived advantages, and the usual tensions that surface when a title is on the line. It's part and parcel of football in Scotland, where scrutiny intensifies and every decision is analyzed from multiple angles. Amid all of that, there's a need for focus within the squad, an understanding that external conversations can quickly become distractions if they're allowed to seep into the dressing room. The strongest sides are often those who block out that noise and keep their attention fixed firmly on the task ahead. What adds to the intrigue is the sense that this group still has another level to reach. There have been flashes throughout the season where the quality has been undeniable, moments where everything clicks and Celtic look exactly like the side supporters expect to see. The challenge now is turning those moments into consistency, especially under pressure. With the stakes so high, there's little room for error, and every performance will be judged not just on style, but on outcome. That's the reality of a title race, where results ultimately define everything else. And as the next match approaches, the energy around the club continues to build in multiple directions at once. On one hand, there's the immediate push towards silverware, the drive to finish the season strongly and deliver success where it matters most. On the other, there's an ongoing conversation about identity, leadership, and the role of supporters in shaping what comes next. Both threads are unfolding simultaneously, creating a moment that feels significant beyond just a single campaign. as Celtic stand at a point where what happens on and off the pitch could leave a lasting mark on the club's future. As the spotlight sharpens on the upcoming fixture, there's a growing sense that this is exactly the kind of moment that defines a season. Not just because of the points at stake, but because of what it represents psychologically for both players and supporters. Returning to Celtic Park under these circumstances carries a different kind of pressure, one that demands intensity from the first whistle. The expectation is clear, and there's no hiding from it. The team must deliver, not just in terms of result, but in performance, because confidence can be a fragile thing at this stage, and one strong display can shift the entire mood around the club. There's also an awareness that certain individuals will need to step up, especially if squad depth continues to be tested. When key players are unavailable or not fully fit, it opens the door for others to take on greater responsibility. These moments can shape careers, turning squad players into trusted options and giving emerging talents the platform to prove they belong at this level. It's part of the natural cycle within any competitive team, but in the context of a title race, the stakes attached to those opportunities are magnified significantly. From a tactical point of view, there's likely to be an emphasis on control and composure. Games like this can easily become frantic if emotions take over, particularly with a charged atmosphere in the stands. Managing that energy, using it as a driving force rather than allowing it to create chaos, will be crucial. The best performances often come when a team strikes that balance between aggression and discipline, pressing with intent while still maintaining structure. It's a fine line, but one that Celtic will need to walk carefully if they are to come through this challenge successfully. Off the pitch, the conversations around the club's direction continue to simmer, never quite disappearing from the background. Even as fans rally behind the team, there's a clear understanding that bigger questions remain unanswered. That duality is shaping the current atmosphere, creating a situation where support and scrutiny exist side by side. It's not a contradiction, but rather a reflection of how deeply people care about what Celtic represents, not just in the present moment, but in the years ahead. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Shockwaves are rippling through Scottish football as whispers grow louder of an audacious swap deal between Rangers and Celtic, a move few would have dared to imagine even in the wildest of transfer rumors. At the center of this unfolding drama stands Martin O'Neill, a figure whose influence appears to be quietly reshaping the narrative behind the scenes. Sources close to both clubs suggest that discussions have been ongoing under a veil of secrecy, with senior figures reportedly exploring a deal that could redefine the balance of power in Glasgow. While details remain scarce, the mere suggestion of cooperation, however indirect, between these historic rivals has set tongues wagging across the country. It is understood that O'Neill's involvement may not be coincidental. Known for his deep understanding of the Scottish game and his past ties, his presence in advisory or intermediary capacity is fueling speculation that this is more than idle gossip. Some insiders hint that he has turned the game on its head, encouraging bold thinking where tradition would normally impose limits. Fans, naturally, are divided. For some, the notion of any form of exchange between the two giants borders on heresy. For others, it signals a modern shift in football pragmatism, where competitive edge outweighs long-standing animosity. Social circles and supporter forums alike are ablaze with theories, each more daring than the last. Neither club has issued an official comment, a silence that only adds to the intrigue. Whether this rumor proves to be a masterstroke in the making or simply another chapter in football's rich tapestry of speculation, one thing is certain: Scottish football is holding its breath as the story continues to unfold. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.